This is my seat.
The code one said today that like everything goes. Here's a bottle of water.
So are these microphones? These are not exactly, right? I got one.
What do you think? On cable.
Come on, too.
See by my grade.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Let's get the show on the road, Ronnie. So welcome everybody to the May 3rd Board of Trustees meeting. First time in person in over a year. So welcome everybody. For the first time, we are also streaming online. It doesn't allow for outside interaction. So folks, if they want to participate, please look at the agenda ahead of time, submit comments ahead of time, and we do have room for limited capacity for now, but with the governor's recent announcement of May 19th, reopening of New York, we're going to be watching what the limits are, and that'll probably adjust for next month's meeting. So Ronnie, go ahead. Why don't we get started with the ground rules, and then we can work through the agenda.
Okay, good evening, everybody. At all of our Board of Trustees meetings, we have rules about public comment and speaking. We ask that you state your name and address before you speak. And please limit your comments to 3 minutes and not be repetitive of any other speaker, and the mayor and the board can override that 3-minute rule.
Okay. All right. I think we're going to hold off on, oh, I forgot the pledge. Let's start with the pledge. All rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, I tell you, it's really handy when you have slides in front of you. And I guess just before we get started, I saw our village attorney was coming in too. Thank you to Ronnie and Rich and Randall, who put in a lot of time and effort to set this all up, from coming up with the plastic dividers here to Randall has spent a lot of time and effort with Rich getting the streaming service set up. So thank you. I appreciate that. Let's go to, why don't we start with the mirror on Port Washington Boulevard. We have a resident here, I think, with us, Ronnie, right?
Mr. Escobar?
Yeah, Dina Perpides, 60 Chestnut Road.
Okay, you feel
Yeah,
free
go
to
ahead.
address the mayor and the
Yes.
board. You can stand and just,
Sure.
explain the problem to them.
Yeah, so I've been living on Chestnut Road for 12, 15 years, and every time I come, I drive and I come to that intersection, Chestnut and Port Washington Boulevard, I flip a coin, and try to make a left or a right, and then go for it. So you have no visibility, especially on the left side, on common traffic. I'm not suggesting that we put a traffic light, that might be overdone, but I think a mirror across, there are 2 big poles that were installed after Sandy. If you had the ability to put in on those 2 poles, like a double traffic mirror or 2-way mirror, whatever the right terminology is, so we can see in advance traffic coming and we can make the decision. My own nanny had an accident 6-7 years ago, so I'm sure there's been a lot of accidents there just because of the insecurity that you have because you don't have good visibility.
And I know I've tried to turn out of there when I drive through the village, and it is challenging, especially depending on if that light has changed red in front of Uncle Giuseppe's or not. So,
Yeah.
Claire, I don't know, you live over that area. Do you have any comments?
Yeah, no, absolutely, I agree with it wholeheartedly. I think what makes it a little bit challenging too, this could be something we could consider, is when you're making a left, there is some blocked, there's some parking spaces, and then there's an area that's blocked, and frequently, there's landscaping trucks or other folks that are parked there, and I think that contributes to the issue. So
Okay.
maybe in the short term, you could consider some kind of enforcement where you're not supposed to be parked in that particular area, but
Okay.
if you do concerns.
That's that striped area right
Yeah.
beyond Napa. Okay.
There are frequently cars parked there.
We should, why don't we put that on the hotspot list for the POP officers for the traffic enforcement? That's a good idea. Rhoda?
First of all, I'm the one who helped get the light for what's now Uncle Giuseppe's. Goes back just a few years. But as you were talking, maybe we can get the state, is that the state highway, to put up a sign to stop when the light is red up ahead. Put it at the intersection of Chestnut, so that at least the cars can stop. They can see the light. And maybe they'll stop if there's a sign saying stop here on red.
On the boulevard?
Yes.
Okay.
In the meantime, we did, and I had them design it, so you have 2 double sets of arrows on the street. And that's so you can stop in the middle. It's a waiting area,
Okay.
and then go on from there
Okay,
to
Rhoda.
your left. To your right, you get out. The other thing is to check with the state on the timing of the lights,
Mm,
to try and end up with a bigger gap.
Okay, thank you, Rhoda. So I don't know, what is our ability to put a mirror up on the telephone poles? Is that something we can do? Is that something we got to get approval from the state on? Have we done that anyplace else?
I think those are the power poles, not the
I
telephone.
love Chestnut.
Oh,
I think what we should be doing, at this point, it is a state road. In the past, whenever we put anything up on a state road, the DOT does take it down. But what I would like to do is send a letter to the DOT explaining the problem, requesting a study, mentioning some of the, the remediations that could be possible, and let's see what we get from them.
Absolutely, that's good.
all right. Any other questions or comments from the board?
Kind of trees, right?
No, it really is, it kind of bends. And there's the parking, there's the Napa and the karate studio now and the haircutting place. And if cars are parked there, it really is hard to see whether traffic's oncoming or not. So, all right, we'll do that, okay? And we'll let you know what the outcome of that is. Thank you very much for coming down, appreciate it. All right, so let's go to the carding contract. We recently put our carding contract out to bid since the contract was coming up in June. We tried to address some different issues that were coming up with the community regarding recycling, ensuring that recyclables stay separated at pickup. We also put the contract out with varying terms of the contract just to see if we get better pricing along the way. Ronnie reached out to, I'd say, a dozen garbage carters to try and drum up interest. At the end of the day, we got 2 bids, Meadow and Dejana. And based on the results of those bids, Dejana was the lowest bidder. So at this point, Ronnie, are there any more specifics you want to share about the contract?
What I wanted is to just put on the record that the contract was let according to New York State regulations on bids. It was noticed properly. Bid packet was prepared in accordance with state law. And as an entity, as a governmental entity, we are required to bid any contract, any service contract in excess, I believe now it's $60,000. What's the minimum on a service contract for bid? I know it's been raised.
Actually, 25.
25, okay, anything in excess of 25,000 must be publicly bid, which we did. And the village is required to accept the bid of the lowest responsible bidder, which was the Dejana Industries.
And our anticipation was we'd see an increase in garbage costs. I think actually the bid that came in from Dejana actually keeps it flat over a 5-year term of the contract. The Meadow bid over the course of 5 years would be $890,000 higher. So, that obviously is a really good bid financially. Before we go further, I know we have some new members. It's been a while since we've done a garbage contract. Ronnie just highlighted some elements of state law. Jeff, do you just want to explain for everybody too? Is there anything else you want to add from what the board is allowed to do in awarding or rejecting bids as far as state law goes?
Sure. So the law that applies is the General Municipal Law 103. And it's different from private sector in that the board is obligated to accept the lowest responsible bid that comes in. A board can reject a bid for certain reasons, one of which could be if you were to determine that the bidder who put in the bid is just not responsible. In order to do that, the general advice would be to hold a hearing, to have an inquiry. And in fact, I would just point out that I think it was the last time that this job was bid. Can everybody hear me? Because I know I'm turning toward. The last time that this particular type of work was bid, this board did have a question about a bid that had come in and did hold a hearing, and as a result rejected a bidder. But the concern is that in following the law, the village is not allowed to reject just by choice, as you might be in the private sector, which you just can't do here. The second thing I wanted to point out is that, as Ms. Schatzkammer mentioned, there were a number of different choices, if you will, that the village board put out in terms of what the bidders were bidding upon. And I just wanted to highlight one of those if I could, which is this was bid as either a straight 5-year contract, but the village board also put out that it could be a 5-year contract, and at the end of each year, this board, in its sole discretion, would have the option to either renew or to not renew for the next year. And that would continue for the 5 years. My understanding of the bid that came in from who I believe was the low bidder is that they bid the same number whether or not the board was to choose the straight 5-year or the plan in which there would be the option to renew at the end of each year.
Okay.
So Jeff, for the other board members who weren't here for the last garbage contract, why was that other low bidder rejected?
I don't believe that they had the appropriate insurance that they required.
And they did not have a license to dump in the town of
Right.
North Hempstead.
Right.
And they came in, they spoke with the board met with them. It was actually a very informative hearing, and that was resolved in that fashion. And as you would expect, the other bidders were certainly aware of that hearing as well.
Yeah. I think since I put out a message last week that alerted the community to the fact that this issue was coming up again, even though we had talked about it in previous meetings. I know I heard from several residents with concerns regarding pickup and how it would be handled. I think several of you did as well. As part of our due diligence, Ronnie did speak to several other administrators who used Dejana. I think, right, Ronnie, why don't you just share what they shared with you?
I did my due diligence and I reached out to the village of Plandome and the town garbage district, and I got pretty good reviews. They're very happy with the service. And any one-off problem is addressed immediately.
Mm-hmm. I also spoke with the mayor of Plandome Heights, several other mayors that used Dejana, and they all said and some of them had transitioned over from Meadow and said that they have, really preferred the service. So just so everyone knows, we did some due diligence and checking, just so the residents know too. We also met with Dejana last week, and we have 2 representatives here with us tonight who, John and Rob, why don't you guys just introduce yourselves? Do you want to say anything at this point? Just introduce the company.
I'm John Mangano, Dejana Industries, 165 Kenny Park Road in Westbury. I'm the director of sales. This is Rob Valachi. He's our operations manager. Rob will be responsible for the day-to-day operations. I'm always available. I'll spare you the entire background we talked about with the company. We've been around, we've been in the service for a very long time. The one thing that we do understand completely is there is always apprehension when you change a contract like this, and we're very aware of it. We're the company that's out there daily, basically representing the way that your village does business, and we completely understand that. Not to say that a startup sometimes has its ups, has its downsides at times. We might not be as familiar with the little idiosyncrasies of one particular resident or area, but we'll find it. The one thing that I can tell you about our company is that communication is very important. Rob and I speak a half a dozen times a day. The one thing that I know I believe in, and Rob does also, is that if a problem comes up, no matter how small it is, we like to address it right away, because that problem just turns into a larger issue. And we're here to assure you that we're excited about doing business with the village. It will not be our first startup within a couple of years, I believe, right? Yeah, a couple of years, we've managed to start up a couple of different villages and towns that we might not have had for a while. Meadow is a very good car. I never say anything bad about them. I mean, hope they say the same about us, but they're a good competitor. A good competitor makes you better. So without taking a lot of your time, I just want you to know that we're here. I'm always available. I have left my cards, my numbers, and my cell phone with both the mayor, deputy mayor, and Ronnie. Again, I want to stay in the loop, and I will be.
Yep.
And we appreciate the privilege of, if you choose to award to us, we do appreciate it.
Thank you, John.
Okay.
And we did spend, Ronnie, Randall and I, the deputy mayor, spent about an hour and a half with both Rob and John last week, addressing some of these issues and just making sure we understood what we were getting and that there would be open lines of communication. So they've committed to, recyclables will be separated at pickup. They actually have bins on the truck, separate bins for them to go into. So I know that's an issue that's been a big concern to residents. All aspects of the service will remain the same as it is today, 3 days pickup with backyard pickup. So we're not changing any part of the service. They have given us a service number that we can give to and share to residents, as well as we have the numbers to contact them. I think that's all the highlights I had.
We are going to do a postcard.
Yes.
To all the residents with the phone number.
Yep. So, our fear of high increases and reduced service luckily did not come to fruition, and we had options here. So I think what I'd like to do here is move forward with approving Dejana as the carter with the 5-year contract with the option to renew each year.
Mayor, would you like to offer a resolution?
I will offer that resolution.
You want to,
And may I just suggest that be subject to an approvable agreement for the board? I just want to make sure that the contract, as was mentioned in the bid packet, will reference that it will have the options per year, and the pickup schedule will be as before?
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
And gentlemen, I'll just follow up with
We
you.
plan on following the exact days. The routes might be a little bit different, but the days will be the same.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. So we need a second to authorize. Are we authorizing the mayor to enter into that contract, or is it just approving?
I would ask that it be, that the bid as proposed be accepted with the option for the village to renew it at the end of each year, and also that the mayor could then be authorized to execute an agreed upon contract once prepared by council.
All right. I will make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, so, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, I happen to have the contract here, because I knew I would have all the parties. Can I have
Okay.
them sign now?
Can I just put a question on the record?
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Claire.
I know that there's obviously some concerns with all this. Could you just remind me?
This is just the proposal that they need to sign.
Yes, so the contract will turn over in June. It's, Ronnie, it's June 1st, the new contract takes effect.
I'm sorry?
What day does the
Oh,
new
June
service
1st.
start? So we'll do some communications ahead of time as well. We've talked to Dejana about that. Like Randall said, we're going to do a card that explains the changeover, and also we'll take the opportunity to remind people about recycling as well. We're going to update some information on our website as well.
Okay, okay.
They've been really good about sharing resources
Okay.
and information with Ronnie. So, all right, let's move to the minutes.
Okay, does anybody have any comments or corrections on the minutes of the April meeting? There being none, can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make the motion.
Trustee Rosenbaum made that motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have trustee Collins. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Claims. Does anybody have any questions on the claims?
No question.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You're raising your hands. Thank you. I'll speak with you. I'll speak with you now. Okay, there being no questions, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the claims.
I'll make the motion.
I have a motion by trustee Rosenbaum, second. Second by trustee Dorfman. Okay, building inspector's report.
Hold on, we got to take a vote on the minutes. All in favor?
On the
I'm sorry.
motion. On
Oh,
All in favor?
claims, sorry, not claims.
Claims. Everybody, does anybody not want to approve the claims? Okay, all in favor on the
Aye.
claims? Opposed? Thank you.
And
This-
I have to recuse myself, do I do this every time? Art of landscape.
You are not voting on the art of landscaping.
Every time.
Yep.
I'll do it every time.
Thank you, Max.
Thank you for reminding me.
Okay. Peter and the ARC report.
All right, this is the meeting of April 27th. We had 8 applications before the committee. 3 returning. One was 37 Woodland Road. They came back, made some modifications. We still have one item that's a condition on the color sample. So I'm asking for approval subject to that. 1045 Northern Boulevard. This was permit that was issued, but they came back with a different exterior cladding. We got approval this last meeting with the panel itself. Some details are still going to be submitted, so we're really been scrutinizing that the details of that building. 230 Mason Drive, that's a new residence. They came back again, basically addressed all our comments. Just one minor comment about a light fixture we had, so that was approved subject to. New applications. 18 Crab Apple, that was a 1-story addition, 2-story, 2nd-story addition, covered porch, terrace, pergola. General design was approved. We had an issue or a question about a large tree they were proposing to remove, and we were looking to see if that tree was something that our arborist would grant to be removed, and if not, adjust steps that were proposed in that area. So basically, if arborist says, well, that tree is a viable tree, we're going to ask them to relocate the steps away from that tree, save the tree. But the architecture was approved.
Okay.
10 Hewlett Lane was a roof-mounted solar panel system. That was approved as submitted. Its panels are all in the rear of the house, and we've done a preliminary, sort of informal preliminary the month before. 18 Knollwood Road, it's the front portico and exterior alterations. Our only comment was about the stone that was being used. It was a cultured stone, and we asked that they use a real stone on what is the lower half of that two-story building. 44 Woodland Road, a one-story addition with expanded patio, that was approved as submitted. 135 Woodhill Lane, that's a new residence. We had, I guess the biggest comment had to do with they had a side entrance garage that required, someone who thought too much regrading or sunken area. So we asked them to look at that again with the grading height of the house to sort of balance those walls so it kind of was more natural in the setting of the property. And then there were some issues with the front elevation, window size, center window, and so forth that we asked them to come back. So that we asked to come back next meeting. And that was the architecture review committee.
Before I ask for a vote, I just want to note that 135 Woodhill is the house that has been abandoned for about 10, 12 years on Woodhill, and it's finally moving forward, so I think any design would be okay with us.
Yeah.
But it's going to be beautiful.
Yes, and appreciate everybody, the staff's help in Jeff filing the motions in court. And, who knows if that was the ultimate reason why it got resolved, but it got resolved, and we have an actual construction plan, which is phenomenal.
Okay.
And thank you for the work on trying to save the tree on that one property as well. Appreciate the work on that.
I from the photos I saw and the site visit I did, it seems like that's a viable tree, and I think we'll probably make that correction.
Okay.
Okay, I'd like to have a motion to accept the findings of the Architectural Review Committee.
I'll make the motion.
I have a motion on the floor by trustee Lewandowski. Do I have a second? Trustee Frankel seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
And Peter and I just spoke about the community meeting area update. The holdup here is we need one more bid on the paving part of the project, correct?
Yeah, I'm going
So-
to push to getting that very short.
Yeah, he has a lead on one vendor who you spoke with and sounded like they were going to submit something. So thank you, Peter, for staying on top of that. And my only thing is we've talked about this a bunch. I think costs are coming in like we've estimated, but just to move this along, if Peter's able to get that bid in, we may do a quick special meeting just to move this forward, since it's been discussed for a while now, and we're just trying to dial in the final costs. All right, thank you, Peter.
Did we decide on a date yet? A definite date or no?
No, we can't until we know how long it's going to take the.
Mayor, I also
Contractor.
need a decision on the plaque. Small versus the large, but
We're
that's
keep it-
reminded me,
yeah.
so I'll
Let's keep it
email you
consistent
tomorrow
with
about
the
it.
others. Yeah, we can finalize it, but we should keep it consistent with the other plaques.
Because we have Port Washington Fire Department
Yep.
backing us, and I also had a conversation with Marianne Del Monte and Wayne Wink, who want to be part of that.
Great.
Oh, nice. We'll get a lot of press.
All right.
Okay, my report. First, I want to report that I spoke to our engineer, Steve Lornick today. And, because we were limiting attendance at the meeting, I told him to stay home. The only thing that he did have to report was that he's working on the drawings for this year's road project, and he hopes to have the bid out by the end of the month. Next, National Grid has started their gas main line replacement, and that's going to be on Country Club, Hewlett, and Greenbrier lanes. National Grid is paying for half of our repaving costs as well as half of the engineering costs. It will be quite a large project. I don't know if you noticed that there are big yellow pipes in the parking lot. They're using that. We're allowing them to use that for some storage, just for the pipes. They feel that this project will go on until August. The mayor put a call out to all of the homes in the area. Did you get the call? You did not.
I don't have a home phone anymore, so maybe they don't have our cell phone number.
Make sure you register for Code Red, because it was a Code Red call. Okay,
But if they got rid of their phone, their home phone, and that's what was registered,
Probably.
yeah,
yeah.
so it just got
So we
updated.
did put a call out to all residents in the entire Port Washington area. National Grid did send letters to everyone in the area, notifying them that the project is upcoming and asking them to be patient. There may be some traffic delays or some detours around the area. Next is, we have had an informal policy in place for years, and it's never been formally adopted, so I'm going to ask the board to please consider this policy. It's regarding open building permits. So what we like to do is that when somebody has an existing open permit that has not been closed, we do not accept any new permit applications until the work is done and closed. Obviously, if it's an ongoing project, that's not an issue, but if it's an old expired permit, we do require them to close that out before we will open the new permit. So the policy reads, it is the policy of the Village of Flower Hill that no new permit may be opened on a property if there are existing expired permits. So I would like to ask the board for a motion to formalize this policy.
I'll make a motion. I'll just comment that I think this is a helpful way to try and keep records in order and have people close out projects. I think some people kind of get done with the project and then, right, don't want to close it out for whatever. They don't want to give closing costs or kind of pay out the permit. And then it sits there, but then they keep coming back to the village for other work or other things. And
I have one on my desk right now. I'll open a new house permit. And then they went ahead and built a pool without a permit, and then they were issued a permit for a generator. And, that generator permit should not have happened. So,
and we had a recent conversation with a business owner where, kind of going through those records, it looks like over the years, different things were happening and, 3 permits were still open, and I don't know if it was 3, but there were a couple of permits still open. I think it's just a way to motivate people to get things in order before they start new projects.
okay, so we have a motion on the floor by the mayor. Do I hear a second?
Before we do that, can I just ask a question?
Of course.
Have we had any cases where the open permit was from a former owner?
Rarely, because you can't get a mortgage if there are any open permits on a property.
Good.
So when somebody sells a house, if you're selling for cash, it's a different story. But a mortgagee does a title.
But I don't know about.
When they do a title search, they look for any open permits or violations. And those, most attorneys who are buying will want that cleared up before they're gonna move forward.
Depends on the title company. A lot of them miss, because we get calls, people buy houses and they didn't show up, and, so
Yeah.
not all title companies are the same.
Well, they're not all diligent about things either.
Yeah.
I just wondered how we've handled that in the past, or how's it been handled in the past, because I can see that as being difficult.
Yeah, most of the time, we have to wait until somebody actually sells their home to close out permits, unfortunately.
Some people have the thought that if they don't close out a permit, they're not gonna be taxed on it. Which is not true because it goes to the assessors when the permit's issued. And the assessors usually follow up if something's done, especially in addition, they drive by to see that it's done. But that's a view of a lot of people, why they don't close it intentionally.
Sometimes I think what happens too, right, if you have a builder handling the permit process for you, homeowner thinks they closed everything out and then they don't, right? So I think it's just going to be a tool to help us, make sure things are in order.
Right, it's really for the protection of our residents, because, if there's an open permit on a property and there's an insurance claim, the insurance company may not pay that claim, So it is for the protection of our residents.
Most cases, I'd say it's unintentional, so we're probably going to be helping them out at the end of the day. It's not meant to be punitive. It's just meant to let's all be on the same page and make sure it happens. And it also, right, it's a safety factor, right? If
Right.
permit was issued
that
4 years ago and it's out of date.
Well, especially now, we have so many, sales of property. We have a lot of, we have to clear up these permits at the last minute now. They come in, we're closing next week. We got 3 permits we gotta close out, because they've just been left.
Yeah, and if the permit has been closed, it means that it has an electrical certificate on file. It's been inspected. If the fire alarm, the smoke alarms, and carbon monoxide detectors are installed properly. So it's a safety, it's a safety assurance.
Okay, any other questions? You okay, Gary?
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Okay, so do I have a second on this policy? Thank you. I have trustee Lewandowski, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay. Okay, next, we have been approached by Altice to, they want to install a box on Stonytown Road in the right-of-way. What's going on with Altice is that they are moving to fiber optic, and this box is the booster for their fiber optic cables. I'm sure that Randall understands this much better than I do. But it's,
And Ronnie, we also have Frank Leva here from Altice.
It is Frank.
Yes, that's Frank.
Let Frank.
I know you. Well, I'm gonna hand it over to Frank.
Frank, go ahead.
Thank you for having me. I am correct, we are going to a fully fiber optic network. So when Altice purchased Cablevision about 5 years ago, the senior management decided to future-proof the network and go fully fiber optics, similar to what Verizon Fios does. It's fiber to the home product. Right now, our existing network is a hybrid fiber coax. So the backbone of our network is fiber optic. The last mile, is what they call it, to the home is a coax copper wire, for lack of a better term, facility. So what we are doing is currently we're going to be overlashing our existing plant, that's what we call our facility. And as such, we require ground-mounted furniture strategically placed a certain distance from our hubs in order to assist the light, which is beamed through the fiber optic cable, to continue to its path to the users, to the homes. Each cabinet essentially covers between 2,000 and 5,000 residents, depending upon density and usage. It also is a benefit to small businesses, as we'll be able to have our optimum online product be delivered to small businesses at a price point that's much cheaper than our traditional enterprise or light path division, which typically goes to hospitals, major companies, school districts, things like that. So this is really an upgrade. It's a way for us to compete in the market. I know, everyone is buzzing about 5G and wireless technology. This is a real competitor to that type of technology. Just to give you a little bit of background, when Altice purchased Cablevision, between 80 and 90% of our customers were taking a 60 megabit internet package, which was, headline at the time. Now our base package is, I think, 200 megabits, and this product will allow us to go up to 10 gigabits. And then, to be honest with you, the engineers are saying it could be even higher than that. Not that anyone's ever going to need 10 gigabits of service, I can assure you that, but it's available. With the average user, average household having 15 to 20 devices that are Wi-Fi accessible. This is our way of addressing that need and kind of leapfrogging instead of incrementally upgrading, leapfrogging the industry.
Thanks, Frank. And from what I saw from the material you provided, it's like a trunk, so it looks about maybe 5 feet high by 4 feet wide.
That's right.
Okay, when we had the original site was down by the water district building, the
4 or
service
5 feet
building.
tall. Here,
You can kind of see, I'm gonna pass it
pass it
down.
around.
Yeah, you can kind of see how
It's like a
it's
telephone
neatly
tree.
right behind a couple of bushes.
That's right. We plan on camouflaging it with everything trouble.
Pass it down.
That's the typical camouflage. As the mayor said, it's about 5 feet by 4 feet by 2 feet. Sits on a
So
6-foot pad,
No, what it is.
Oh, that's the water.
Oh, you-
and we'll bring the fiber optic cable up into the box along with power. So PSEG will be providing the unit with power. And then the wires will then come out of the box underground back up to the next pole.
And when they originally requested this, they asked it be put down towards the west side of the park, down by the Pollution Control District building, which unfortunately, with the deed for the parkland, doesn't allow for it to go there because the parkland goes right up to the curb. So they've talked about moving it to the corner of Stony Town, down in front of the well from the water district.
Okay, this is really small,
where
but
there's
this is
right-of-way.
the survey of the park. And the yellow area, you can kind of see the property line of the park goes in, and there's just right of way that belongs to the village, right in front of the water district property, and that's where it's going to be sited, so we can pass that down. And this is a picture of the site.
And again, this is the area was purely selected only because
This picture.
that's how our design network was created. We tried to identify the least objectionable area so that we weren't putting it in front of people's houses. We know that there were some other companies that, with other technologies that may have done that and created an issue for the residents. We tried to avoid that at all costs. So we want to be good partners with the village.
So this is west of the entrance into the.
That belongs to us, that's village right of way, not park property.
How far is set back from the curb line?
Brian, can you answer that?
So it's a 6-foot pad that we'll be installing underneath the square pad, underneath the.
What's the right of way? Do you know what the right of way is?
Well, yeah, I don't have that information, but I'll get it for you. I mean, we did do a survey, it does fit in our, in the right of way. It'll be close, but we'll.
I always just hope that it can be put as far into the right of way, away from the curb.
Absolutely.
They want it as far away from the curb lines, they never want a car,
Yeah.
truck to hit it, because that's a major
Down all those
fix.
trees over
Yeah.
here, clean it up.
Any, not that we're doing any, road work, but any ground that we.
So in here, we will move any of the curb or anything.
They're just so happy there.
Does this need bollards in front of it to protect it?
It does, yeah, it does require a bond. Again, in some communities, Suffolk County, they do not want bonds, so we chose with their consent to use a different technology, to protect the cabinet so that it doesn't fall in. It's breakaway bolts that are engineered. That's an option. Obviously, we prefer to have the bonds because it does protect our equipment as well as the public, but if that's not something that the village wants, we can certainly go.
Will you be able to get some screening in front of it as well?
Yeah, the bushes will be,
Okay.
we will, put the bushes in and, the cabinet is galvanized steel. It is graffiti proof. Obviously, nothing's 100%, so if there's ever any damage or graffiti, or if there is a dead shrub, please notify me, we'll get it fixed right away.
Thank you, Frank.
Okay, so at this point, we're waiting for an agreement and a liability waiver from Altice. And so once we get that, Jeff will review it and then we can move forward.
Can I ask a question? This is probably like a really dumb question, but is there any chance that anybody, will read this and say, read it some environmental concern or any chance at all?
No, this does not have any emissions associated with it. I think with the exception of the meter that PSEG installed, which is the same meter that I believe goes on the side of houses and things like that.
Okay.
No, this is completely just fiber optic equipment, has nothing to do with wireless or any kind of signal emissions.
Thank you.
I thought it was a very good question.
Yeah.
No, that's very good.
No, yeah, people always just say, they see something new and they don't know what it is, and then all of a sudden it's,
It's a great
how
question.
come you didn't tell us, and,
Really?
Yeah.
That happened?
Yes. So I'd rather ask the question. Thank you very much for the explanation.
So
You're catching on quick.
just given there are questions around like where it's being cited and everything, I think what we'll do is you're going to get our village attorney a copy of the contract. And then why don't you guys work through that and we can take a look at that and discuss this approval next meeting? Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Does that sound good, Jeff?
It does.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Frank. All right, I guess, attorney's report?
We have not had a zoning board meeting this month because we had no new cases.
Okay. Finally. If only Art could get one of those. All right, first thing on my agenda is to appoint resident Jeremy Shao as an alternate member of the Zoning Board of Appeals. Jeremy served on our budget committee this year as our citizens rep. I think very knowledgeable and, wants to volunteer and help out the village. So in discussions with him, we thought this would be a good way for him to volunteer further.
He is also on the technology committee.
Yes, and he is also on our information technology committee. So would like to appoint him as an alternate to the zoning board for a 1-year term. So I'll make a motion to appoint Jeremy Shao.
No, it's actually a mayoral appointment.
Oh, okay. There we
Right?
go.
Does it need to be approved by the board?
Which one, we're appointing an alternate?
Yeah,
Alternate.
To fill? It would be subject to board approval.
can't hear a thing you say.
Oh, sorry, it would be subject to board approval. He's not completing an unended term. It's a new.
It's an expired
Yeah,
term, it's a new
It would be
appointment.
subject to board approval.
Oh,
Okay,
okay, then you do need approval.
so I need approval
My-
for
my
Jeremy
bad.
Shao's appointment to the zoning board as an alternate.
I'll second it because I assume you need a second.
I would assume so too.
Okay.
Any questions? Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions?
Thank you.
All right. Traffic study pilot program. I'm actually going to ask my deputy mayor here. I know you met with Rich last week
And I'm
on
going to
the
ask Peter,
tables.
did Rich speak to you and show you the street?
Tables?
Street furniture that we, which he didn't.
Okay.
All right, I'll grab you after the meeting. So Peter, as our fire what? What's the title?
Marshall?
Not fire marshal. You have to approve the speed type tables. Your title for this is fire what?
Fire marshal?
Okay, so it's fire, thank you, I guess it is. So Peter needs to approve it. I thought Rich was supposed to have asked Peter, but I guess that didn't happen.
Okay.
But actually, I don't have the catalog. I'll email you tonight or tomorrow.
So,
And then we'll, assuming, it's the stuff you saw in the past. Just want to make sure it's still fine.
Okay.
I will then get a quote from the manufacturer.
Okay.
And we will do the pilot from there.
okay.
And then, actually, on that, more importantly, is that the fire department is good with that.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if we need to have the county fire marshal approve it.
Well, plenty of other villages put up full
Of
speed
course.
bumps.
Okay.
And the type of I'll call it equipment that we're looking for actually has gaps in it that allows fire equipment to drive right through it. So,
It would be the local fire department that.
So we're going to do this.
Mhm.
This is what we're going to do. So Randall, let's get the information to Peter.
Yeah.
And then let's reach out to the Port Washington, Roslyn Fire Departments and Manhasset Lakeville and just share it with them and ask them for any feedback. Our goal is to have these acquired by the end of the month. So this way we can get the pilot project up and running based off our study.
right. And the good thing about this type of speed tables is they are removable. So for the winter, Rich can take them up. And when we deploy them, if they accomplish their mission or for some reason they're in a location that causes a problem, we can have them easily picked up in a couple hours and redeployed somewhere else.
And school buses don't have a problem with them, or garbage trucks, or?
No, it should be, so I'll share with you also the width. If fire trucks can go through it, the larger equipment can go through it as
So
well.
then why can't a car go through?
Wider wheelbases.
Oh, so the openings are two separate, you're talking about?
Think of it as three pieces. There's one piece,
Ah,
one piece,
so they
and a
have to
middle
do one,
piece.
gotcha.
And it's just the right width for larger, right, the fire trucks and the ambulances to go right through. So it won't slow them down, which is a large concern.
My understanding is if the car tries to go through it, they'll only get 2 sets of tires, right? Because the other 2 tires are going to go over the middle. So,
I'm doing wheelies.
yeah.
I'm just concerned about that noise when a garbage truck goes over that thing, or another truck goes over that thing, it's gonna make some noise.
That's always the problem with.
So this is, I mean, this is why we're doing a pilot, right?
We got complaints, and we asked for them, and then we got them, and complained about them.
I haven't been a big fan of speed bumps.
This is
Through this whole
exactly,
process, so.
this is exactly why we're doing a pilot, right? People want us to try different measures, let's try it. and let's see how it goes. We can always, rip them up. And if you remember on the presentation, the gentleman said there is a resale value to them that
Wow.
other municipalities have bought them, so.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we'll put them on eBay.
All right.
On my house.
COVID update. So I'm sure everybody saw the news today. The governor announced May 19th as a reopening of New York. Sounded like limits on inside and outside gatherings were going to be increasing significantly. So we're going to keep an eye on how the executive orders change. Hopefully next month's meeting, we won't have any restrictions on attendance, and we'll still keep the live stream going, but hopefully, we'll have some more changes as the month comes up. I know as far as vaccinations go, all mass vaccination sites are now open to walk-ins. So if we know of anybody that's still searching for an appointment, like they can call any of the places that have vaccinations, or they can go walk into a mass vaccination site. Last week, I know the state did a pop-up one at St. Peter's Church in Port Washington. So we're trying to keep our ears open for any other sort of pop-ups, talking to our local officials. So if people are having a challenging time finding a vaccination location and getting an appointment, let us know, and we'll try and refer them to the facilities we know about.
And it looks like in the next few days, they're gonna authorize it for 13 to 16-year-olds, so.
Yep.
It would be.
12 to 17
Is it 12?
was announced today.
Pfizer, though, just the Pfizer vaccine.
So, we should get that word out to get our young people in the village vaccinated so they can start enjoying,
Yep.
the park and all that stuff.
I do think, though, there's still going to be mask requirements in different locations too. So,
Indoors,
yeah. So we'll just, we'll come out and communicate that out, and any restrictions on the park as we go along. So Port Washington Water District reached out to us. Trustee Dorfman and Trustee Collins were on the phone with them for, Claire, were you on that call? Yeah, and Claire, Mary Jo, you were too, right? So they, due to state requirements, they are adding a filtering system to the corner of Stony Town and Port Washington. They'd like to. They have to do that immediately. But then there is a second system that filters out nitrogen that the limits on the well have not reached yet for the requirements of the filter, but the way the nitrogen in the well has been going up, it is probably going to reach that point over the next 10 years. So it's a significant investment in the well. So they don't want to do the current project if they don't have a commitment for the second project for the village. The first project is within the existing footprint of the space that's up there. The second project would require them to use some of the park land that we have. Based on a review of the deed, we think that there are restrictions that will not allow us to do that. I went on a tour of both facilities, their facility on the corner here, as well as one over on Birchdale, just to better understand what the operations were and what they were trying to do. Listen, if that well is to remain operational, they have to do these two projects. There's no way around it. So I think what I'd like to do is have them come and present to the board at the next meeting, but I wanted to give everybody a heads up so you can look through the materials and think about it. They've come up with two options. So Ronnie has the information in Village Hall. I'd ask anybody to look at it. Anybody at home in the public, please, you can come down and look at it. But I think we'll invite them to come and give a presentation to the board and give some more details about this project and why it's needed. But that is a pretty significant well to the entire peninsula. The way their system works, it isn't just like that well services the Port Washington and Manhasset area of Flower Hill or the west side of Port Boulevard. The entire peninsula is a grid, and all the wells on the peninsula feed that system. So all the wells are constantly feeding the system. So if this well is to go down, it's going to significantly decrease their capacity. They'd have to find a different place to put in a well, and there is no other place on the peninsula to put in a well. So they're pretty challenged here. So I think we'll let them speak for themselves, come do a presentation next month, and we can talk about it a little bit. All right, and that's all I had. Oh, actually, one other thing. I do want to say, going back to the garbage contract, I do want to thank the current drivers and workers who have serviced the village for a number of years. I know my garbage person, Benny, is wonderful. I don't know how many of you have Benny, but I think we've all heard great comments about them, and I feel really bad for them being in this situation, but I would like to thank them for all their years of service, and I know they will be missed in this village by many of us. So thank you to them. All right, move on to the trustees reports. Randall, do you have anything on the website?
No, nothing new on the website.
Okay.
We're gonna obviously add in the new garbage information once that is available for the.
Great. I do want to get a demonstration set up on that that system I shared with you and Ronnie. I'll go back and look at it. There was they were doing the online records, but they also do like online permit system and things like that. I'll go back and I'll pull it. It was an alternative to the Laserfish.
I must have missed some.
I'm looking,
Yeah.
I thought I have it here in my emails.
All right.
Yeah, we'll find it.
All right, so that's website Parks and Beautification, trustees Lewandowski and trustee Collins. No.
And we've been talking about the monarch butterfly garden, and the pickup date for the plugs has been moved to May 15th, so tentatively, we would look to plant on May 22nd, which is the following Saturday, in consultation with Anne Frankel. She did not think we needed more than 2 or 3 people. This is a relatively small garden, and that any more than 2 or 3 people would be on top of one another, and there are only 48 plugs to plant that day, so she will be one of them. If there are anybody here that has an avid love of gardening that would like to help, I can give you details. I'm not a gardener, but I'm going to volunteer. So that is the 22nd. The other question was about milkweed. There's been a lot, if you've read any of the things from the town of North Hempstead, and the milkweed is another pollinator plant. We do have room for that. I've spoken to Rich, so that area should be staked out and will be increased slightly. Third is the kits do come with signage. Somebody had asked about signage, so there should be signage. So bottom line is, it's our first foray. We're starting small. That'll be a show, a prominent place in the village to see it, and we'll go from there. So that's the update. And then Gary, you want to talk about the path?
No, I think we don't have to talk that, but I wouldn't mind taking this time just to catch up on Hempstead Harbor meeting from last month. First of all, I think most people know, but there is now officially a grant program for the environmental septic systems. So, and looks like they're trying to also get additional grants to have the septic systems be tax-free. The other thing is that June 1st is the deadline. I think we know this, but June 1st is the deadline for the MS4 reports. So we'll have to get that taken care of.
It's in the works.
Yep, I assumed it was. And I think those were the main ones, yeah.
Since you brought up the septic system grants, I am talking to the North Shore Land Alliance next, Wednesday. They're going to have, they're working, I know, with the county and Nature Conservancy on some of this. So I wanted to see where they were at. Yes, CAT, yep. And I know we have talked about, kicked around waiving our application fees around installation of the advanced septic system. So, Peter, if we can talk about that before the next meeting, I think anything, if they're going to try and make them tax-free, I think anything we can do to encourage people as well, that would be great. And it sounds like they may be running some sort of like grant or raffle lottery for some systems.
Yeah, I don't know.
I did that
I
yourself,
attended the webinar on the grant, the county grant, and it is a first come, first serve.
Okay.
It's, and they will rebate up to $10,000 per septic system. So, I had spoken to Peter, since we have so many new homes being built, I think it might be worthwhile for us to mention this to, the new builders.
Hey, Ronnie, do we know how much these new systems actually cost?
About 20,000.
So it's subsidized by 50%. Okay.
I mean, on a big
And-
home, yeah, realistically.
And right, the goal of these systems is to reduce the amount of nitrogen that's coming out of your septic system, which reduces the amount of nitrogen going into our groundwater, which is why one of the filter systems that they're talking about putting in the park, and it's one of the biggest problems with water quality in Hempstead and Manhasset Bays. So this type of technology, hopefully the costs come down, but the more we can get it adopted, the more it's going to improve our water quality, both in our aquifer and out in the bays. So that's really important.
Gary, what is the tax savings there? What, I didn't quite understand.
It's not official, it was just that, there's pursuit to get to some tax-free,
So in Suffolk County, when they did these programs and subsidized it, I think it was the county comptroller out there, someone said that this was, they had to actually charge the resident taxes because it was a gift. And so the IRS came and said, yes, you're actually giving them a gift here and they have to declare it on their taxes. And so there's a movement to get our federal officials to waive the tax penalty there, or the, not the penalty, you can consider it a penalty.
It's probably similar to like a solar system, when people get grants on the solar system.
Yeah, and then they got to claim it on their taxes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's the challenge to it there. And then going back to parks, I got in touch with the professor from Farmingdale, Professor Menchek. So he's going to come down Thursday at 3:30 p.m. So Gary or Mary Jo, if you're free, Rich said he could be there. We're going to take a walk through the park, and he's going to look at the situation and see if he's got any recommendations for us on establishing grass there. He's going to just think about ways that we could hopefully be a little more successful with it.
Any update on when the path will be painted? Like, where are we with that?
Did you talk to Rich about colors?
Never came back to me with anything, so.
Okay. All right, Ronnie, we got to follow up with Rich on colors for the path and touching base with
Well, I
Gary.
think, he gave Gary let Gary make that decision.
No, we talked about it a couple weeks ago, and he was supposed to send me something that he had, but I didn't see it.
Colors, like with green or something?
Yeah, there were
Rich
some
told me that
samples.
he had given you a list of colors.
You did?
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
All right.
And I had a thought, because when the path goes on into Planto Manor, it's kind of like a brick path. There's a way of printing asphalt that makes it look like brick, and you see it in the crosswalks up on,
No,
Shore Road.
no, you don't want to do it.
Okay.
It's terrible, it wears away,
Oh, okay.
like within a year.
I just thought because it would
Yeah.
continue the look.
If
Yeah.
you go into down Port Washington, they did all of Port Washington and it's all gone.
Yeah, no, it's all on Shore Road.
Yeah, it wears right off.
Oh.
It's not.
What is it? It's Frank, it's a coating? Is that
Yeah.
what it is?
Yeah,
Oh,
they
okay.
lay a stencil down and it's an applied coating.
So it'll disappear as quickly as our existing, okay.
Yeah, it doesn't, it's a good idea.
I know, I thought, wow,
Yeah,
that would look
but
so
it's-
nice.
Yeah, but it's not cheap and it doesn't last.
Yeah.
Better
And
off
we
with
don't want it.
a more of a traffic type of
Yeah,
coating.
no, that's what we're talking about.
We just need to get the color and then say, do it, right?
Yeah.
That was the.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, we'll follow up on that tomorrow. Trustee Janice and Dorfman, Sustainability Committee, but we had a good meeting.
Yeah, we had a good meeting. We're meeting this Thursday with Richie to go over a bunch of things with him. That's about it.
Okay. Anything on the volunteer corps?
Actually, just a combination of sustainability and volunteer. One of the requirements for us to become a climate smart community is to establish a committee. So looking for volunteers, if there's anybody in the village, who'll be interested in serving that committee. It would basically, be meeting, looking at some of the practices that we are currently doing, thinking about creative ways that we can get credit toward becoming a climate smart community. So if anybody, in the village, residents interested, please reach out.
Okay, thank you. All right, Brenda, I'll let you take the next topic, and I'm going to step out for a minute.
All right, so I forwarded to everybody on the board the information I got when I attended, and I believe Ronnie, you attended it as well, NICOM's webinar on legislation regarding marijuana, local governments, et cetera. It was a very interesting webinar. If you guys want to ever live, you might not find it as exciting
I
as I
listened
did.
to it.
You did listen to it. It was pretty good.
It was good.
I sent you all the materials if you want to listen to Wade Beltramo speak. He's a great speaker, very knowledgeable on the subject. You could listen to the recast of it. But it really taught me a lot about the local law. And I think the highlights, and I know I've spoken to everybody individually, but I think the highlights are if a village or town or other municipality that's allowed to does not opt out of either the sale and or the consumption site, commercial consumption site, by December 31st of this year, then that municipality can never opt out ever again. So if by not opting out, you are officially in, I'll say, allowing that type of business in your village, and you can never stop it. By opting out before December 31st, that gives the village an opportunity, for whatever reason, in the future, if we wanted to opt in, if that was the will of the people, then we can opt back in. But by not taking an action, you can never make an action after that. Once you're, in essence, you're not opting in. Once you're in, you're in. Interestingly enough, if this board or any other board does opt their municipality out of the sale of marijuana, commercial marijuana, recreational marijuana, if the residents who live there want it, they could get enough signatures and do something called a permissive voter referendum. I don't know the exact numbers. I know it was very interesting.
It's a percentage of registered voters in
But who
the.
voted in the last governor election. So,
Yes, it's a crazy formula.
so I don't know what that number would be. That would just be the number of signatures someone would need to make it a referendum. That referendum would have to happen pretty quickly after, I think there's a
30 days.
Within 30 days of when this board would approve.
They would have to get in their they would have to get in the signatures, and then from there, I think it's 45 days, if I'm missing that days. I think it's 45 days after the signatures come in, then we'd have to hold the referendum,
Well,
I believe.
it depends. It depends on the village's election
Right.
cycle. If there's an election within, I have to check the time frame.
Right.
If there's a regular election to be held, you could add it to that ballot. If not, then the board would have to create a special election. for this
Right.
purpose.
So at least if there are enough residents in this village, if, let's say, the board decides to opt out and enough residents are interested in having this type of business in the village, they could then do a referendum. So in essence, overruling what the board does, which is pretty rare when it comes to municipalities and passing of local laws. The other interesting thing is taxes. So initially when this was being presented, in this case, our village, if we did not opt out, we would get 3% of the gross revenue right off the top, which is pretty significant for this type of business. However, if the town, since we're part of town of North Hempstead, if North Hempstead didn't opt out, so they allowed the sales in the town, we would have to split it with the town. So any windfall we thought we would get by allowing the sales, we'd only get half of it. So then it's not a windfall anymore. What else did I learn interesting? Public consumption. We cannot ban public consumption. We can only in village-owned property. So Village Hall and the park, I'm not quite sure about the walking path. I need further guidance on that. But we can't stop the consumption. So it's just like someone smoking a cigarette walking down the street. They could technically smoke marijuana and walk down the street. Personal cultivation, there's certain rules on how many plants a resident can grow for their own use. The village really cannot restrict it, but we can enact reasonable regulations. And I think some of the reasonable regulations is just to ensure that other people can't, in essence, you couldn't plant it in your front yard because you have to prevent people who are unauthorized from taking your stash, basically. I think that's the key facts I have.
So, question, so like walking down the path, you can't walk down the path with a beard technically, right?
No, because there's a law against an open, yeah.
So the state
got
treats,
stricter.
the state is treating, so alcohol is always gonna be alcohol, but the state now is treating marijuana the same as tobacco.
Okay.
There's no difference in the eyes of the state. So anywhere,
Alcohol's a strict, much more stricter.
right, alcohol,
Containers, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Marijuana somehow jumped over.
marijuana jumped over everything. It went from illegal to whatever you want, literally anywhere you want. But yes,
In a day.
you would think there would be like open container laws. No, the state doesn't. Only place you can't smoke is in a car. That's really the only place.
You can smoke your car as long as you're not driving.
Oh, I didn't know that.
You can't drive while using a product. It doesn't say anything about sitting in the passenger seat.
I guess I missed that part in that very long webinar. But yeah, no, it's very interesting. The state really wants this legal, and they really don't want municipalities to stop it.
Well, it's money. You know, it's a lot of money. That's
Can
why
be.
they're,
It can be.
Okay. So if there are any
I was
questions?
gonna say, anybody have any other questions?
When do we actually opt out? When do we actually?
Okay, so we're going to pass a resolution tonight resolution to hold a public hearing, introducing the law and holding a public hearing in June. We always hold our laws open 3 months, so it'll be June, July, and August, we can vote on opting out.
We have till the end of the year, so we'll go.
And then they have 30 days.
But I think by doing this now and giving enough time, it allows any residents who want to speak in favor or against the village opting out, gives them plenty of time to voice their opinions. And I mean, I'm definitely all for opting out. And it gives our residents enough time, if we all vote the same way, to do a referendum in an expeditious amount of time. So I think it's a win-win for everybody for us to start this process early instead of waiting towards the end of the year and having to rush to get it done by the December 31st deadline.
No point in waiting.
Right. So,
We're not gonna change our mind.
Okay, so would somebody like to offer a resolution introducing local law E?
I will make that resolution for the June 7th meeting.
Yes. Okay, do we have a second?
And this is, by the way, banning the retail sales and a site that does consumption.
And
on-site
consumption site, right. Second? Trustee Dorfman, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, great, thank you. Where'd the mayor go?
And the next one.
There it is.
Okay.
What's next?
Okay, now, next we have another resolution introducing, because having this first meeting, we decided to keep it simple and not hold any public hearings. So the public hearings that were scheduled for this month, we're putting off to next month, so I have a resolution, again, introducing the local law. One is local law C, modifying the definition of a home professional office, since people are now working from their homes. We don't want to restrict that. Local law D would change the permit accessory buildings and structures in the rear or side yard of a corner lot. And the other local law we have is to extend the date for the tax due date to August 2nd instead of July 1.
Which is what we did last year.
Right. So that's just, so what we're just saying is let's hold the public hearing on all of these next month.
All right, so I'll make that motion.
Okay. Second,
I'll second.
Mayor, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. New business, we have the approval of the Port Washington fire contract. Mr. Blinkoff's reviewed it, our insurer has reviewed it, and they find it to be acceptable. And just for your information, it is $6,691 more than last year's contract, which is a pretty typical annual increase.
Well, not really.
Well, last year we had the big bump because
Yeah,
of the,
it's
right, the
gonna-
assessment
it's gonna
change.
adjust often, every time there's a reassessment done. So the next time there's a reassessment, it's gonna be recalculated based on that. So you can have two types of increase. You can have your regular increases every year or so, and then whenever there's a new assessment done, there'll be a rebalancing of the responsibilities of the villages and towns.
Yeah.
So
Although the county hadn't reassessed really in a really, really long time. Well, it was because County Supervisor Karen had done that whole total, change of the way they assess properties, that we had last year, we had a huge increase.
but they're claiming it's gonna be more regular
Yeah,
assessments.
that's
So
true.
we don't know if it's gonna be every 3
But what
years,
do-
5 years, 1
It's
year,
supposed to be by state law. What is it? 3 years?
3 years.
I think every 3 years is supposed to,
something like that. Yeah, which
So-
hasn't.
Unfortunately, we need a fire department, so we're kind of like over the barrel. So I'm asking for a
Ronnie, what was the
resolution
increase
to
again?
have the mayor sign the contract.
$6,000 and change, you said the increase was?
Yeah, this
Yeah,
year. we did pretty good.
6691.
Last year, I think it was 60,000.
Last year was huge.
Okay.
I don't remember the exact number.
Yeah.
So I'll make a motion to approve Port Washington fire contract with the increase of 6691.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and finally, we have, well,
I'm sorry, could we also just ask that there also be an authorization and a resolution that the mayor be authorized to execute the contract as well?
I have that in the resolution.
Want to do that one?
Wait, do someone have to make that motion? I'll make that motion.
All right.
All in favor?
All in favor of authorizing the mayor to enter into the contract? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, approved. You got the butterfly resolution? Ronnie?
Resolution regarding sustainability and support for the Monarch project. This is in your packet, it's very long, and I am not going to read it. But what this resolution is saying is that we're going to do whatever we can to help promote the sustainability of the monarch butterfly, which we're doing through our garden and the milkweed planting. And this resolution means that we as a village and the mayor has signed on with the monarch project to continue to support this project. So I would like to ask for a resolution.
You want to offer that resolution? Butterfly one, you want to offer that one?
Oh, so I offer that this be approved?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So I'd like to authorize that this resolution be approved.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Trustee Lewandowski, seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. And we have our history report.
Can I ask you while we're on new business?
Oh, I'm so
I
sorry.
heard somebody get about that bamboo growing over on Little Neck Road.
Yeah.
So it's getting worse again, it's back, so obviously those people never really dealt with it.
Well, no one ever dealt with it.
So
But I'm
wait,
with some-
Rich just cuts it down.
here's the issue, right? It's, so we've banned it from planting. However, I think that was pre-existing the ban,
Right.
and you just try and manage it. Like, that's the thing about, can you actually remove bamboo?
Yes,
Or
you
is
can.
anybody-
You can, but it's very hard.
You have to dig down, what, Frank, 6 feet, 8
Yeah,
feet?
something like
You have to
that.
build a wall, concrete wall.
To the transverse root, because it grows horizontally, the main root, so you have to get to that. We should at least,
Does our code require them to remove it, or is it just a ban on planting?
I have to check.
I sent it to you, Frank. I
Is
think
it-
they
it says
have to remove
remove
it. If it
Yeah,
grows,
because cutting it is not gonna stop the growth.
no, but I mean removing it. Like
You
they have
can't maintain that.
they have to abate
It's
it.
unmaintainable.
They have to abate it so it doesn't come onto their property.
It's like kudzu, it's like you can't,
Right.
My brother was married.
you can't
Oh.
maintain it really.
All right, so let's look into it and see what we can do, and this would be another code enforcement item that we have to push on. Okay?
There's,
We'll check the law and see
I
what we
think
can
there's,
do.
there's, property in Eastgate, I think, that has it.
Well, there's lots of properties that have it. It's all over.
Yeah.
It's all over the place.
With the code,
But it's, it's kind of impossible to stop, but we can see what they can do.
so I can tell you what the code currently provides as
Yes.
far as existing. It says, this is 78-4. Any bamboo which has been planted, installed, or otherwise permitted to grow in any property within the village prior to the effective date of this chapter may remain subject to compliance with the chapter. Property owners shall be responsible to ensure the pre-existing bamboo does not encroach or grow upon any adjoining or neighboring properties, including public property and rights of way, and shall be required to take reasonable measures to prevent bamboo from invading or growing into adjoining or neighboring properties. And then it goes on to describe the types of methods that could be taken.
So we can order them to remedy.
Are there any other penalties if you order and they don't remedy, or is it, I know it's hard to control, but.
Yes. So if,
You get a summons?
yeah, they could receive a summons, and the violations would be not less than $100 and not exceeding $500 for the conviction of each violation. And each and every day that a violation exists can be a separate violation.
Okay.
Do we want to put out a summons or just?
Well, let's find out what the situation is.
To correct.
Let's find out what they've done to remediate it.
I can't hear, I'm sorry.
I think maybe just a letter to them.
Yeah, like in
saying-
order to remedy, be aware that you have this bamboo, it's a violation, please correct, yeah.
They may not realize it.
Yeah, that's what I think.
I was wondering, like, do we have to put out some kind of notice to the general public on this? Because I think it's just, people don't know any better.
And North Hampshire does it all the time. They always send out notifications.
Yeah, we can add a notification to it. I remember this came up because someone was planting a pool or putting in a pool, and we had to update our code. Yeah, we can alert people to it and let's remind them, just like we did with the bushes.
Considering we just made the pledge on native plants.
Yeah.
It's our duty actually to send out a notice and educate the public then.
Yep. So no problem with
It's
that.
not native, unless you're in Australia.
All right, let's, historians report. Do we have a historian's
Madam
report?
Historian.
We should get some pandas. I think we all got a copy of it.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And then public comment?
I just want to say something. I hope you enjoy the history minute that you get each month.
We do, thank you, Ro.
I'm very
And Ro-
getting documentation for new things.
Yeah.
And I'm working on that. It's because so many of the county offices, you can't get in there to do it.
Yep.
Nassau County keeps records from 1900 on their properties. The town of North Hempstead, I need to get into their vault. And I'm having trouble.
Well,
Okay.
you came in right now.
I wanted to write on the Civil War because there was a lookout here. But I could not get enough documentation, so I wrote on the living that I did. And, if you have a topic you want, if you have an interest, I'll give you my phone number.
Wasn't somebody gonna write a book, wasn't
What?
there like a book in the plans?
Well,
or a couple
eventually.
of years ago, someone was
Yes.
doing a book on his flower list?
We were talking about that, but we would need documentation and photos. There's a young fellow who's been working, excuse me for this, I'm fully vaccinated.
It's okay.
Mitch Schwartz has been working. He comes in once a week and he's interested in being a history teacher.
Yeah, and today
Shall we
Mitchell
meet with-
discovered that, this is a good one. We've always said this village has never gone out to bond. Well, that's not true.
Oh,
And
yeah?
he will go dig into messy areas.
Yeah, I know, I had an allergy attack because
Did
the
you ever
documents
see
were
the
covered in
map
dust.
that he found for the village here?
Yeah, 1948, the village went out to bond for $58,000 to purchase the property, $6,000 for this village hall, and to build the building.
No.
And I do believe that our bathroom and the walls are original.
Yes.
I'm sure the bathrooms are original.
All right, well, Rhoda, thank you. We'll follow up on, I'm going to follow up with the town, hopefully with May 19th, with things reopening, those restrictions improve and you can get more access to records. Real quickly, there is a code enforcement issue that could involve litigation at some point that I want to do an executive session on. So I'm going to make a motion to go into executive session.
I'll second.
Thank you. Randall's going to stop the live stream. Thank you, everybody, who joined us at home. And we look forward to more people, I guess, viewing and attending.
Okay.